President Biden signed an executive order which would split $7 billion in money from Afghanistan that has been frozen for months. But news of the split is meeting with mixed reactions from those who could directly be affected by it. New at 6, Queen City News reporter Derek Dellinger has that reaction tonight. And Derek, there are a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah, one thing we can tell you is that there is a passionate reaction to this, from first responders who say the money will be necessary for those who cannot work, to the Afghan community who says that money should be staying with the Afghan people. In the Charlotte area, there are substantive numbers of people who survived 9/11 that live here. Among them is Felipe Roman. He's a former New York police officer who these days is on disability.
I have to take a CAT scan once a year for my lungs. I have multiple growths in my lungs, which thank God at this point are not cancerous. They could turn into it.
And that is just some of it. Life has changed drastically for Roman, and even the idea of getting a little extra help is something that he says is long overdue.
I'm not able to maintain my household like I was when I was working.
That help could be coming in the form of an executive order from President Biden. It essentially splits $7 billion in frozen assets from Afghanistan. $3.5 billion would go to a fund that would be set up for victims of September 11th. The other $3.5 billion would go to humanitarian aid for Afghanistan. However, for the Afghan community, we're told the feelings on the order are a lot different.
There is no connecting the dots there. None of the hijackers were Afghan.
ISRA MOHAMED is a first-generation Afghan-American from Charlotte. Today's news for her is not good.
We are stealing $3.5 billion from the mouths of starving Afghan men, women, and children.
There is some agreement from both sides on this, namely families and those still living who survived 9/11 getting help and compensation, and the need for the Afghan people to get help for what is becoming a humanitarian crisis. But the disagreement comes in how. Mohammed believes one has nothing to do with the other.
The U.S. government persecuted the Afghan people for 20 years for a war that they had nothing to do with.
While Roman believes today's action could address a decades-long issue that he is still living with today.
I do believe that there's people out there who still could use real help and make up for the income that I could have earned if I wasn't involved in this and affected by it so deeply.
That fund that the $3.5 billion would go into for 9/11 families, we're told that it would not be immediately dispersed out. The money would be divvied out on legal claims that have been made by terror victims. Those cases are still making their way through the courts. Brian?